Everybody, video here for you today. New subs, I do this about roughly once a week, go over ancient history news stories. I don't like to spend a lot of time on these because I have long lists of lost history stories to do. But these are good to do once a week. Learn a lot doing these. We're going down to Giza today. It says this find was made at Giza, famous for the three pyramids here. But the location, I kind of think it's kind of out in the Nile Valley here near ancient Memphis. Here it says statue of ancient Egyptian priest uncovered in Giza. Here is a statue. This is about 95 centimeters tall. That would be roughly about 3 feet tall, made out of one piece of black granite here. It says an excavation run by Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities in the Mit-Raina area in Giza discovered a statue of a priest of the ancient Egyptian goddess Hathor. There you see it. So the Mit-Raina area, I believe that is a little south of where the pyramids are. Says the salvage excavation in the area began in July on a privately owned plot of land that officials working in the area suspected contained antiquities. It says it is 95 centimeters tall, this statue, 45 centimeters wide. And ongoing excavation work is still uncovering other artifacts. The work in the area also uncovered a statue of Ramses II in the company of two other gods, and statues of other gods such as Sekhmet, Ptah, and Hathor. The area around Giza was used by many different dynasties. Kings and pharaohs left their offerings at Giza. But there you see some hieroglyphs, and those appear to be pretty well done. But one solid black piece of granite. That's pretty cool. Let's move on. Next story, let's go down to ancient Yemen down here. Not sure where this discovery was made, but I found this very fascinating. Had a few comments on this story. Let's just read. Here's the latest story to come out on this. A few different websites have covered this. It says Neolithic people in Arabia use same fluting technology as ancient Native Americans. An international team of archaeologists has excavated and examined 8,000-year-old projectile points at two sites in Yemen and Oman. They found that ancient Arabians independently invented a process to create distinctive projectile points called fluting that was first used by Native Americans about 5,000 years earlier. I have shown a lot of fluted points because that's really some of the only artifacts we have coming from the Clovis. But it says fluting is an iconic stone tool manufacturing method and a specific action that involves the extraction of a channel flake along the longitudinal axis of a bifacial piece. It is well known in North America, evidenced by finds across the continent dating from 13,000 to 10,000 years ago. Physics.org also covered this story. In ancient Arabia, some tools were created just to show off skills. Here is where they're doing the excavation work at the rock shelter, Maneza site in Yemen. Here it says researchers from the French National Center for Scientific Research, The Ohio State University, and Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History excavated and examined projectile points such as spearheads and arrowheads created during the Neolithic period in what is now Yemen and Oman. They found that the Arabians independently invented a process to create projectile points called fluting that was first used by people living in North America thousands of years earlier. But there is one key difference between the fluting as it is found in North America and how it was used in Arabia. It says finding fluted points outside of North America was an important discovery. These fluted points were, until recently, unknown elsewhere on the planet. This was until the early 2000s when the first isolated examples of these objects were recognized in Yemen and more recently in Oman. They concluded it this way: in North America, fluting was used just to make the arrowhead or spearhead more functional, but in Arabia, people also used it to demonstrate their technical skills. That's a pretty interesting conclusion, but there are some points found in Yemen. There are some more right down here, but kind of the same technique used thousands of years earlier in North America and here being found on the other side of the world, where people just kind of programmed to think a certain way when inventing tools. Well, that's an interesting story to say the least. It says finding the fluted points in Arabia provides one of the best examples of independent invention across continents, said co-author Michael Petralia of the Max Planck Institute. Given their age and the fact that the fluted points from America and Arabia are separated by thousands of kilometers, There's no possible cultural connection between them at all. There's another tool found at the site here. Let's move on. Next story, let's go down to Lake Titicaca down here. I did a story last week on Tiwanaku, read a 500-year account of an explorer who was here. But this lake, full of ancient mysteries, shorelines ringed by ancient sites here. Let's talk about what was found at the bottom of the lake down here. Here it says rare underwater Inca offering pulled from Lake Titicaca. And this just came up a few days ago. Here's the stone container with a cap here. Inside, a llama figure. And what they say is part of a gold bracelet there. Looks kind of like a roach. It says archaeologists in Bolivia have recovered a fully intact underwater Inca offering containing a miniature llama figure and a gold bracelet. The offering, dropped into Lake Titicaca some 500 years ago, provides key insights into Incan rituals and spiritual beliefs. Here's a close-up look at those artifacts. It says the Inca people believed it was the lake from which their people originated, having sprung from a rock on the island of the sun in the southeast corner of the lake. New research published this week in Antiquity furthers our understanding of Lake Titicaca and its role of the spiritual lives of the Inca people. And of course, the Inca came to this part of the world and found Tiwanaku already in ruins. It says an archaeological expedition led by Free University of Brussels discovered a fully intact underwater offering on a submerged reef near the southeastern coast of Lake Titicaca. There you see it right there, sitting on the bottom of the lake. These stories of these offerings being left at this lake here, the gold, Tiwanaku was once covered in gold. Here you see the item being raised up to the surface, but it just reminds me of a video I did a few years ago. All the stories here remind me of one thing, El Dorado. Where did the Spanish go in the year after they learned of the El Dorado legend? Well, they visited Tiwanaku, and why was that? Well, maybe we don't know the full story of the El Dorado legend. Let's move on. Next story, let's go down to a place that I covered during the quarantine, the shutdown. Ancient Carahunge, right down here. Place of standing stones. That might go back 7,000 years maybe, but this site is right down here. Here is ancient Carahunge. High elevation site here, standing stones. Let's just read what was found here a little while ago. This is archaeology. This is a very new story. It says researchers survey Armenian Stonehenge. Of course, everything is compared to Stonehenge. Here's a look around. Carahunge here. Public Radio of Armenia reports that 30 previously undocumented stones were discovered at a prehistoric monument known as Carahunge during a survey conducted by the Bayurikan Observatory and Armenian National University of Architecture and Construction. Here's a look at some of the work they're doing here with their equipment. Notice a hole in the stone right here. 30 new stones discovered, but maybe we can get an idea of what these stones were aligned to using some modern technology. Located on a mountain plateau in southern Armenia, Carahunge is made up of at least 223 stones marked with holes, burial cysts, and standing stones. The researchers measured the stones, scanned them with electric equipment, and conducted an aerial photo scan of the area. The new data will be now used for astronomical calculations to see how these stones were aligned. I think that's a pretty cool story. Wanted to share it here. Let's move on. Next story, let's go down to the UK. I want to thank the people for sending me the stories on Stonehenge. I'm going to make an individual video on that, get a little opinionated based on what other people have said. But right down here is Peebles, Scotland. Here's a new story. Metal detectorists unearths a Bronze Age sword and a horse harness in the Scottish borders. Marius Stepien was searching a field near Peebles when he found a Bronze Age hoard described as nationally significant. Seems pretty happy here. He says, I thought I've never seen anything like this before and felt from the very beginning that this might be something spectacular, and I've just discovered a big part of Scottish history. I was over the moon, actually shaking with happiness. I will never forget those 22 days spent in the field. Every day there are new objects coming out which change the context of the find. Every day we learn something new. I'm so pleased that the earth revealed to me something that was hidden for more than 3,000 years. I still can't believe it happened. But as he was getting strong signals from the earth around the initial object, Mr. Stepien contacted the treasure trove unit to report his find. Here are some horse harness or pieces of a horse harness. That went back almost 3,000 years. I believe this is part of the sword down here, a few other artifacts in the ground here. Here is a gentleman who made the discovery, but metal detecting, certainly a good way to find artifacts buried in the earth that have been there for a long, long time. That's a discovery coming from this area of the world. The River Tweed runs right through here. Those are 5 ancient history news stories coming from around the world. I like doing this about once a week. Get caught up on the ancient history news stories that are developing around the world. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.